Good morning, Mr. Efeni. How are you?
Good morning, Leila.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ruben. In your all-black outfit. How come you did not...
With a touch of orange. We both have a touch of orange today as well, don't we?
It's telepathy.
Yes, I did not follow it. The line of telepathy did not cross
it didn't
my
cross
path.
you.
Yes, let's start with these day newspapers. ECOWAS appoint Buhari to lead COVID-19 debt forgiveness campaign. 108 more COVID-19 cases push tally to 981. Federal government accuses China of racism, studying governor's call for lockdown on interstate movement. Says 40 health workers infected with virus. NCDC, World Health Organization, redeploys 17 officials to Kano. ANAP 6 lockdown review to save economy. Yes, Ruben, you seem to have given a very charitable appraisal of that appointment of President Buhari as to lead the campaign against COVID-19 debt forgiveness campaign. And of course, you recall the fact that he was also appointed by his peers in the African continent as the champion of anti-corruption. Well, I don't want to pour cold water on that assessment, but debt forgiveness, that's what we're asking for. And I think we should push it very hard. And like Bismarck Rwanda made that distinction yesterday, debt forgiveness and debt relief. The headline says debt forgiveness. Inside the story, they're talking of debt relief. What I think is feasible is debt relief. That is a moratorium from paying your obligations, annual obligation. And if you recall that Nigeria use so much of our income to service debt. So if we can get that relief, the amount of money being spent over time, every year for debt relief can go into some other area. So debt relief, feasible. Debt forgiveness for Nigeria, not likely. And because recall the IMF list of those countries that should get debt relief, Nigeria was conspicuously absent on that list. And of course, another issue that from this headline we should also look at.
No, before you leave this issue, I commented on it at length, and the position of IMF, World Bank,
yes,
the G7, the G20, and the Paris Club, the challenge with China, and Emmanuel Macron asking for debt cancellation. And I said that the controversy is still out there. But you had an objection to President Buhari being named the champion of the COVID-19. What objection do you have to that?
You see,
and to what I said?
If you see, I'm not objecting to what you said.
No, you said you didn't want to pour cold water. I want you to pour all that cold water on
But it's my choice not to pour cold water.
No, pour it. I will respond to you.
Because even this day lead story is celebrating that. So I don't want to pour cold water on
No. You have a mind of your own. Just say what you want to say.
I have a mind to say that
I
don't want to pour cold water.
No, because I don't see what you will say.
Well, because, look, if you look at what we have been doing so far, yes, compared to what other African countries are doing, our strategy seems to be limit what we are doing now in terms of testing. If I may just paraphrase what the officials are saying, it's as if our strategy is based on our limitations. If we test so much, we don't have capacity to just where we can accommodate everybody. If you bring people in, we don't have anywhere to bring. While other countries in Africa are bringing their nationals home, we cannot bring us because we don't have enough space to keep them.
But in terms of testing,
you want us to be the champion in Africa.
In terms of testing, they did also say that we do have a certain potential and we're not maximizing that potential because our own testing strategy is, according to our health officials, different to that of other nations. What was the word they used to describe it? What was the word that they used about the testing strategy in Ghana compared to that in Nigeria?
There is blanket testing.
Blankets,
as opposed to mass testing.
Exactly.
Yes. And that was an Ehanire.
We are what you call smart testing.
Just wait now. And
because of your limitations as a country, because of the limitations of your facilities.
No.
Yet you are celebrating your being champion.
Yeah, because we cannot underestimate Nigeria's role and influence in ECOWAS.
We should listen to the scientists. And you know, of course, that Nigeria is the regional leader in ECOWAS.
Yes.
And apart from what we're doing at home, that leadership position is recognized. Because the collaboration, the efforts that will be made by ECOWAS, there may be resources involved.
Yeah.
Nigeria has more weight, more capacity.
More resources.
And I said that, you know, we shouldn't look at it as a personal thing. The honor is in terms of recognition of Nigeria's
position within ECOWAS.
Because if
there are
they need resources,
there are things involved.
Nigeria can bring more resources than any other country in West Africa.
Yes, we can.
Yes, I agree with you on that. Yeah. But not because we have done better.
No,
because if Ghana can do mass testing,
that wasn't the issue.
If Ghana can do mass testing, we are opting for smart testing
Mr. Efeni,
because of our limitations.
It was never a competition on who has done better. Every African leader that was involved in this teleconference championed President Muhammadu Buhari to lead the fight or to lead this debt relief campaign that we're going on. To be very honest with you, all it does is reflect Nigeria's position within ECOWAS and within Africa as a whole. We are powerful. That cannot be underestimated.
Nobody's contesting
what
about
do you want? Is it Chad?
Yes. You are not the only person who will probably say President Buhari should not have been chosen as COVID-19.
No, I've not said it should not be chosen.
Yeah, well, that's what you are saying.
Cold water on it.
That's what you are saying, but you are entitled to your opinion.
No, but I've not said that.
But I've articulated my own position.
Okay, let's move on, please. Well, let's look at the New Telegraph. Federal government moves extension as 40 doctors, nurses test positive. PTF, we are consulting with governors on next decision. 3 Lut General Hospital doctors contract virus in Lagos. Government considers life insurance for health workers. Yes, the doctors who have been so infected, as well as nurses. In fact, if we look at the Daily Telegraph, they have a different figure. The Daily Trust newspaper has a different figure. 77 Nigerian health workers infected with COVID-19 Lassa fever. Yes, they're adding Lassa fever there.
Yeah.
Yes. You see, Lassa fever has been an epidemic that has been ravaging parts of the country. And the fact that our doctors are not well protected to the extent that they are also being infected. Recall when the NMA president was on this program a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Yes, he talked about a high number of doctors who have died from Lassa fever infection. An indication that this country has not provided enough PPE, personal protective equipment, for doctors tackling infectious diseases. If we have done that right in tackling Lassa fever, perhaps we won't have so many doctors also being infected in this COVID-19.
I think it's great that a report was done showing how many doctors had also been infected with Lassa fever coupled with coronavirus, because it goes to show that there is a gap, or there are several gaps that we need to fill within the health sector, especially when it comes to the protection of our healthcare professionals that are on the front line. It just echoes what Dr. Faduyile said when he came on the show the other day. Even when he questioned the insurance packages that healthcare workers on the front line are supposed to receive, he was saying that the federal governments, the NMA, don't know anything about it themselves. You know, so there's a lot in question here at the moment, quite frankly, and it's a bit disturbing because these are our heroes.
We were told 40 doctors have tested positive to COVID-19. But if you look at Daily Trust, which you have there, what she was referring to, Daily Trust is quoting 77 Nigerian health workers infected with COVID-19 Lassa fever.
Yes.
So you find health workers involved in either management of COVID-19 or Lassa fever, you know, being at risk.
Yes.
And that's why the need for their protection is very important. That is why they need insurance. That's why they need hazard allowance. That's why we need to continue to encourage them and applaud their efforts and not treat them as if they are dispensable while they are trying to make sacrifices and help to save the rest of the Nigerian community.
They are the frontline workers.
Yes.
The rest of us are supportive staff.
But when you were reviewing,
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, the Punch newspaper. Yes, the same list story, NMA films as federal government says 40 health workers test positive. But above the masthead, Buhari, others urge prayers as Ramadan starts today. Yes, all the advisory are also out there for Muslim brothers to follow. No congregational lectures, as the practice used to be, no congregational prayers. Everybody should pray at home. Breaking of fast should also be done at family level. No need people streaming to one center or to one big man to break fast, as it were. Both the religious leaders and the government, they're also emphasizing this. But will people obey? We also have to. But if we also recall that in many of the northern states, we have Hizbah, these, what do they call them? These native police. They should be used. This is the time I think they can be very useful to enforce this pray-at-home order given by the Islamic leaders as well as government.
But for you to enforce anything, you must have a system in place for that enforcement. And it must be clear to everybody that if you violate certain rules, there will be consequences. But there is, a third leg of that punch story,
yes,
which talks about lockdown impact with determined extensions, it's PTF.
Yes.
And in that regard, this is in reference to the point made by Sani Aliyu, Dr. Sani Aliyu, the national coordinator of the Presidential Task Force, when the issue about the lockdown came up. And he was saying that they're studying the situation and that they will also, again, make appropriate recommendations to the president on the basis of available evidence.
Yes.
But however, there are other groups that have been saying that the extension of the lockdown cannot really work. The Nigeria Labour Congress is protesting and is saying that we may be facing the prospect of social unrest if there is further extension. And in the This Day story, there is a line there about ANAP Foundation,
yes,
saying that, look, continue the lockdown. That's the ANAP Foundation think tank. That continued lockdown will be
championed by Atedo Peterside.
Yes, will be counterproductive. And they are recommending what they call intelligent lockdown. Now, there's an essay somebody sent to me, written by Charles Soludo, who is also saying what we have adopted so far is a copy and paste response, and that we need to take a second look at our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, thank you very much, Emmanuel Efeni.
Have a great weekend.
Yes.